Up next, a fantastic horror film that I would not recommend. Hello and welcome to RotD Review of the Day, and today I am taking a look at the 2018 movie The Little Stranger. Now, when I said that I would not recommend this, that was a little bit of a misdirection. Ultimately, where I landed was I would not recommend this movie blindly to strangers. If you're asking me what's a good horror movie, I would not think to put out The Little Stranger. But here's why. Although this was a fantastic film, and it has plagued and haunted my thoughts since I watched it a few days ago, constantly poring over what I watched, what I saw, what happened, what was going on with the characters, what was going on with the plot. I love that level of introspection when a movie causes me to have that. This was not a million-mile-per-hour, constantly holding on to your pillow scare fest. This was a marvelously slow movie. This was meticulously slow and not chock full of scares and thrills. This was what wound up being a deeply unnerving, deeply unsettling, but ultimately very slow movie that is all about character interaction and character growth. This was not about setting or plot or how characters are simply fighting to stay alive, anything along those lines. For that reason, I would not recommend this to your average movie watcher. This, I think, takes a particular type of patient film watcher that is willing to go at that pace and willing to endure at that pace. This movie clocks in at just under 2 hours, and it is a very paced 2 hours. So to get into more details about what this movie's about and what it has successfully achieved and what it didn't, let's get into the categories. As always, 4 different categories, each one worth up to 25 points for a total possible score of 100 points. The plot of this one follows a house. It is a house that you might see just as well in Downton Abbey. It is a fantastic family mansion in the English countryside, but this is, instead of set at the early 1900s, it was set in post-World War II England, and with financial strife and war-torn country and family that was feeling the effects of the post-war. It is in not disrepair, but it is in a downward slide. Where they used to host garden parties that were magnificent, and hundreds of people all across the region would come and join, and in the kitchen with all the bells for all the different rooms and the many different people that they had working there to service so on. Now it's mostly empty, mostly cobweb. They have one person that, on the staff that works there now, and she's pretty green. Those bells in the kitchen, they aren't ringing a whole lot anymore. And one of the characters is suffering a bit from injuries sustained during the war, and on an unrelated matter, a doctor gets called into the house, a doctor from town, Dr. Faraday. And when he comes, he remembers being there as a little boy at one of those lavish garden parties. And he's still enraptured by the house. He was always of a lower crust class, and the house had this special meaning for him, this upper echelon that he was never able to achieve, even in his proclivity of, or even in his life's journey of becoming a respected doctor. So he's enraptured by it, and he winds up getting close to the occupants that still reside in the house, and their relationship grows and flowers from there, and he finds himself being there quite a lot for both professional to help treat the wounds of the injured party, as well as just informally as a casual guest. He's making his rounds a lot, and the characters develop from there. Meanwhile, Some odd things are starting to happen around the house, and it's been kind of whispered about that odd things have always happened around the house, but it seems like they're growing in intensity or growing in quantity, or who knows. But regardless, it is afflicting the members now. So the movie just really takes off in its own direction from there. This was very creative and very well put together. This bucks all the trends of a standard haunted house movie. I mean, right down to its very essence and core, it bucks the trend of it. It also, when I said earlier that this takes a particularly patient type of movie watcher, it also takes one that is willing to accept that there is ambiguity involved, that they're not going to be tying up everything with neat explanations and putting a pretty bow on the plot line. This is going to have unanswered questions to it. Just stating that right as a fact. That's not really a spoiler. I'm just saying, if you're looking for a fully fleshed out explanation, you're not going to get it. This is open to interpretation. And that's what I love, honestly. It's not ambiguous by accident. It's not like they made mistakes and forgot to answer things or left some stuff on the editing room floor that happened to be crucial and whoopsie daisy. This was very purposeful, very meticulous. This was well laid out. And with how they drew the plot out and how they made the characters and how they interacted with one another and how they grew over time, because this is not a fast movie in terms of timeline either. This isn't taking place over a weekend. This is taking place over a year or two or three. And the growth that they encounter throughout that time is remarkable to watch. And I gave the plot a 20 out of 25. I was just genuinely very impressed with this one. The intent, I gave a 21 out of 25. This was not intending to be a roller coaster ride. This was absolutely intending to be what it was. It was an adaptation of a novel that I have not read. I couldn't comment on the faithfulness of it. From what I've read, it does change the ending a bit to make it more serviceable within the cinematic medium. But all I'll say is that I loved the ending. Again, ambiguous, but I thought very well done. And like I said, it has haunted my thoughts since. So the intent, I gave a 21 out of 25. I felt this movie really achieved what it set out to. The acting, I gave a 23 out of 25. This was simply phenomenal performances, absolutely brilliant performances by the two major leads of the lady of the house, Ruth Wilson, playing the lady of the house, Caroline, and Domhnall Gleeson playing Dr. Faraday. I think especially Domhnall Gleeson pulled out the most fabulous performance I could have ever hoped to watch on this movie. I was just very impressed. The always upright, stiff British gentleman character that he portrayed, the fact that he was by associating himself with these people, right or wrong, good or ill, societal wise, he was punching above his weight class. And the fact that he was able to be that proper and that quintessentially British, while also letting those cracks show through of knowing that he doesn't quite belong where he happens to be standing, and resenting that, and the subtleties in the performance, the way that he lets that shine through was breathtaking. He maintained his character and his composure, and some people can call it one note, that he never really changes throughout the movie. I would happen to disagree with that. I would say that the subtleties that were brought to the performance showed just how much he changed and he grew, and the influence that he had on the family and the house and the influences that they had on him. It all came through, in my opinion. It really did, but in not so patently obvious Al Pacino shouting at the rooftops kind of way. I just loved it. I really, really loved it. 23 out of 25 handily. The technical, I gave a 21 out of 25. The way that the camera work employed different methods as the movie went on, the color palette as well, the actual set dressing of the house, everything about this movie grew. The characters grew. The house grew. The plot grew. The color grew. Everything about this changed very, very subtly, until by the end of it, you weren't looking at the same people and the same house and the same movie that you did when it first started, and you didn't even notice that it was changing while it did. I loved it, and all of the aspects, the direction, the set dressing, the editing, all of that lent itself to that, I gave major kudos on. This didn't have a whole lot of special effects to it. However, it was a period movie, and I thought that the accuracy that they brought to it was astounding. The costuming, the cars, everything about it was just really, really perfect on this. I gave the technical a 21 out of 25. I was very impressed with this. And that gives us a total of 85 out of 100 points. Again, I've already explained, that I wouldn't really recommend this one as far as your average horror movie watcher goes. But, if somebody came to me and they said that they wanted something a bit cerebral, a bit slow, a bit methodical, they wanted to eschew the blood and guts slasher run-em-up kind of movie, and they wanted something more paced, then any day of the week, I would recommend The Little Stranger. This is absolutely worth watching. If you have it in you to sit through 2 hours of being patient and watching a slow movie, then I would absolutely recommend, I would insist that you watch this movie. It is absolutely worth watching. And at this point, I would really like to hear from you. If you've seen the movie, without giving any spoilers, I would still love to hear what you have to say. If you agree with me, if you disagree with me, I would love to hear it in the comments below. Otherwise, if you like these videos, I welcome you to click like and or subscribe. I thank you for joining me today. It really does mean a lot. And I look forward to seeing you tomorrow. Remember, next time you want to watch a horror movie, first make sure that it's good and rotted.